Congressman Mark Meadows, one of our favorites, of course, from the Freedom Caucus. How can Republicans deal with being in the minority in a way that's really effective and will get them power back in 2020 and be good for the American people? He joins us now. Congressman, it's great to talk to you. Any thoughts on how the media are using the death of HW to smash Trump? I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I got to tell you.
Well, I haven't either, Laura. I think probably the interesting thing is when you start to see the media try to use the death of a public servant who served honorably and really heroically, but to use that to really do more Trump bashing is just beyond what most people would consider appropriate. And I can tell you that that appears to be their agenda this whole week when President Trump is paying respects. We're not voting here in Congress, and we need to call it out for what it is. It's a bias between many in the media who can't stand the fact that President Trump believes in keeping his campaign promises, and that includes building a wall.
Yeah, he is actually doing what he said he was going to do. And if we can now move into the border wall conversation, make sure you're right up against the phone, Congressman, because it was a little difficult to hear you in that last segment. But the idea that now we should just abandon the border wall, which is, and I'm going to play this soundbite from Steny Hoyer. Of course, the incoming Democrat majority is hot on thwarting Trump at every turn. Let's listen.
Do you think that Democrats should go along with some of the suggestions that have been made to perhaps give that money to the president, but over a wider period of time, or perhaps in different ways? Or do you think that's a non-starter?
I think, frankly, it is our view that the spending of money on border walls, according to so many experts, is not the best way to make the borders secure. And as a result, we have been opposed to that wall.
Your reaction, and tell us where this wall fight is today.
Well, it's not really. Steny is a friend, but he is dead wrong on this. The experts would indicate that a strong border wall not only helps, but if he's open to other suggestions like changing our asylum laws, like changing the laws for sanctuary cities, other ways to make sure that we can have a secure border, I'm all in. The truth of the matter is, they believe in open borders because just like with California, they're hoping to turn Texas into the next California. And if they can keep the borders open, then it is good. I can tell you a number of us in the Freedom Caucus not only are supporting the president, but we're encouraging him to veto anything that doesn't substantially, and by substantial, $5 billion allocated in December to go to border security and the wall. If it doesn't, he should veto it, and I believe your listeners and the vast majority of the American people would applaud him for really standing up. I think he'll do it. None of us want to shut down, but at this point, it's up to the Democrats to figure out if they want to shut down or not.
Well, I think that December 21st, this deadline or this new date for consideration of the border wall funding, this is the moment. This is a moment where we see where the rubber meets the road and how we're going to deal with this issue going forward. The president campaigned on this wall. He has to see real progress on this wall. It has to happen. And so Republicans are going to be, sorry, but slitting their own wrists here if they don't insist on this. And that means if you need it's a partial shutdown. To this, people act like this is the government-wide shutdown. It's just a partial shutdown because the military is already funded through next year, through September. All the essential services are already funded. This is the Homeland Security bill, correct? That's what we're talking about?
You're correct, Laura. You're spot on. And let me just say this, a partial shutdown, and even it's a partial of a partial. It's the Department of Homeland Security, State Department, and the Justice Department. And even within that, the president has the ability to keep some of the critical things open, like our border security guys at the border, that even if we don't fund it, they can come to work. So I think he has to play hardball. In fact, if he doesn't play hardball, your listeners, his base, they will say, all right, we gave you a pass last time on the omnibus, but we're not going to give you a pass the next time. How can it get better with the Democrats coming in control of the House for the next 2 years,
Right.
this is the only opportunity we have.
This is it. I mean, this is it. There's no other, as the song goes, there is no other opportunity to get this done. Now, I want to hear from you now on your plan to counter the Democrats in the majority, because I think a lot of Republicans are just tuning out. They're demoralized. It's Christmas time. They don't even want to talk about it. They're sick of this thing. They can't believe Republicans didn't get this wall built in the first 2 years. They're glad the economy has done pretty well, but they're really, really mad that there weren't more Republicans, frankly, like you, who are out there supporting the president's agenda. They're really mad. So you're now going to find yourself in the minority. So tell us how you thwart the Democrats.
Yeah, and they have every right to be mad, Laura. I mean, because there's so many promises that actually Congress didn't keep. The president was very willing to keep it. And so here's what we have to do. Even on the wall, if there are some, and there's 4 or 5 things that the Democrats want so desperately for us to pass before we finish this lame duck, let's attach the wall funding to that. Let's make sure that if they're going to vote against the wall, that they vote against something else that they want just desperately, and make sure we go on the offense. So here's the plan. We have to make sure that we do proper oversight, but that we do not go into an investigative witch hunt that basically says we're going to try to find some criminal activity somewhere, and we need to push back, and we need to push back strong, not only through the committees, but we need to call it out for what it is. It is partisan politics when the Democrats are going to put forth 64 subpoenas, I believe within the first quarter of next year. We need to say, when do you go from proper oversight to indeed trying to make sure that this president looks bad at every turn? The American people won't stand for it. We put together not only a communication plan, but a strategy to be able to actually show the hypocrisy of their argument. I'll give you a prime example. We got James Comey coming in this Friday. Now, James Comey didn't want to comply with a subpoena because he was afraid that Congress would leak. That is extremely rich coming from someone who leaked his own memos to the media so that we could get a special prosecutor. We have to show the hypocrisy, and candidly, I'm all in with some of my colleagues to make sure that we do that.
And Congressman, he's going to testify in a closed-door session, which is what you called him to do?
He is coming in for a closed-door session this Friday. We will actually have transcribed interviews, and those will be released within 24 hours, but it will not be the media circus so that James Comey can do his presidential bid for the nomination of the Democratic Party on Friday. We'll do real investigation and real insight, and I think you'll find the transcripts to be very illuminating when they're released.
I cannot wait. Well, we certainly hope we learn a lot about what happened, even though it is behind closed doors, because the public does have a right to know. And Congressman, I hope we talk to you before Christmas. I assume we will, but this is it for this wall funding. You cannot punt this. And if it means you have to miss a few days at Mar-a-Lago, guess what? You have to miss a few days at Mar-a-Lago, because otherwise you might as well just kiss this presidency and the chance of re-election goodbye. It's going to be very hard to get re-elected without any real progress on this wall. Congressman, thank you so much.